treated the same as other prisoners, being treated worse. How she is being treated by the rest of the prisoners, because as you know, prisons are run by gangs. No one knows at this point. The only good news, I think, is she's not going to do 9 years. She will be released. And the war in Ukraine at some point will be over. Some kind of negotiated peace. This is not going to go on for 9 or 10 years. Maybe it will be a war of attrition. But I'm assuming, and the United States is talking and keeps on talking. We've got a couple of prisoners that they want over there. And so hopefully she gets out. And the other thing, is she learning Russian? Is she going to come out fluent in Russian, for all I know? Because you bet no one's speaking English to her. Coming up,
earlier Saturday night. What the New York Times is calling an extraordinarily anti-democratic statement from former President Trump has drawn a flood of condemnation from Democrats as the muted remark from Republicans. On his Truth Social platform, Trump called for the termination of rules of the Constitution to overturn the 2020 election. White House spokesman Andrew Bates said in a statement, attacking the Constitution and all it stands for is attacking the soul of our nation. It should be universally condemned. Republican Representative-elect Mike Lawler of New York says obviously he does not support that. They do love him. Motown founder Berry Gordy, actress Angela Bassett, and actor Michael B. Jordan will be honored at the Critics' Choice Association's 5th annual celebration of black cinema and television. The event will be at the Fairmont Century Plaza. Gordy will get the Icon Award, Bassett will be honored with a Career Achievement Award, and Jordan will receive the Melton Van Peebles Trailblazer Award. We'll get a look at your drive with DKFI in the sky and check the 210 again, but first it's sports with Wayne.
Team USA were eliminated from the World Cup by the Netherlands. The score 3-1 in American football.
Deals for business start now with fresh, limited quantity deals on tech to drive productivity. Save on select performance laptops and desktops powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, plus free shipping on everything, and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
When you can't stop, there's Vicks Vapor Rub. Vicks Vapor Rub sends powerful medicated Vicks vapors right to the source of your so you can experience cough relief. Generations of families have trusted Vicks Vapor Rub to help relieve the worst cold symptoms. So next time you have a cough, reach for the Vicks Vapor Rub. Vicks Vapor Rub. Cough relieving is believing.
For all of your AC, heat, and plumbing problems, Next Gen is your handy neighbor. More stimulating talk.
An iHeart radio station.
Today, the part of Bill Handle will be played by Bill Handle. If you were trying to avoid Bill Handle, this is a bad thing to see right now. And now, here's Bill Handle.
AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. Okay, we got final numbers, not quite, in the Passapan saga that we do every single year. And we're waiting for the latest. As of this morning, just a few moments ago, we're basically at 1.143. That's $1.143 million. $1,143,000.
And when you say that's not quite the final, we're still waiting for some?
Yep, we don't have finals from Wendy's yet. That may actually do, it won't be overturning of the Constitution, but it'll certainly be looking at and determining whether the states can make the decision, overriding everything else. I'll explain when we come back how scary this may actually be. Let's check in with Jennifer Jones-Lee live in the KFI 24-hour newsroom.
Mike Pence says former President Trump seemed genuinely remorseful following last year's attack on the Capitol. The husband of House Speaker Pelosi is making his first appearance in D.C. after being attacked. He was at the Kennedy Center honors last night. He was wearing a hat and one glove. And Universal Orlando has opened up its first escape room experience that's based on two major film franchises, Back to the Future and Jurassic World. We'll get a look at your drive with BKSI in the Sky and the new Hall Pass in just a moment.
If your business has 5 or more employees, did so during COVID, you survived it, well, let me tell you, there's I think Georgia, for example, the state legislature was going to make a move to invalidate the popular vote and put up their own selected electors having nothing to do with the vote under the interpretation of this clause by this court could very well allow state legislatures to do that. Effectively saying, notwithstanding the count, we are going to ignore the count and put up our own slate because we determine how elections are going to be held. That's what the Moore case is about, Moore v. Harper. Now, is it going to go that far? Well, it could. And that's the scary part. This goes back to 1916, which interpreted that clause as limiting the state's ability to make that decision, saying governors can override state legislatures in general because they have veto power. But if this case goes forward, you know what? You take away the power of the governor or the courts in the state to override the decision of the state legislature to decide any way they want how the election or which way the election is going to be held. So let's say the Harper case is interpreted, which Gorsuch and Kavanaugh has already said so, by the way, in other cases. If Moore versus Harper goes forward, and it takes the concept or takes the position that the state legislatures completely control without any controls. The courts can't override it. The governor can't override it. Then the decision of the state legislature, like in Georgia, says we are going to interpret the vote any way we want. And the state legislature of Georgia basically said the popular vote was rigged. And there doesn't have to be proof. The legislature can simply vote. The vote was rigged. And their own slate of electors, in this case, that's what Georgia wanted, would come forward and the vote would have gone the other way for President Trump. Now, would that have changed the election if only Georgia did that? No, it wouldn't have changed the election. But, and the only reason I bring this up in terms of Republicans, because it goes both ways. A Democratic legislature could do exactly the same thing with a Republican win for a senator or a say no, because if the rules are written that its campaigns cannot use it, now this is very word specific, and if it turns out campaigns can't use it, that's very different than the election, the statement on the election, the names or the organizations used. Also, even if you can or can't, where's the constitutional violation here? I don't see a constitutional issue. I can see a policy difference. I can see it's against the law, but I can't see constitutional issue. That's like arguing that blowing through a red light is a constitutional issue. It's not. So I say that, I just lost my train of thought.
These two candidates have no case.
That's correct. I think the candidates have no case.
That is correct. And you also hit upon what the question was. Campaigns are allowed more leeway in terms of regulation than electoral processes. And the whole question was whether the slogan on the ballot was more part of a campaign or more part of the electoral process. And the court said it's part of the electoral process at that point. It's not part of the campaign. So it can be more heavily regulated, and they have fewer First Amendment protection.
We're done.
You did it.
Hey, good stuff. All right, we're back again tomorrow when we start all over again. Wake Up Call with Jen and the rest of the Wake Up Call crowd, and then I'm back from 6 to 10 with the morning crew. Also, thanks very much for all the donations for Pastathon. We haven't gotten final figures yet, but we're at $1,143,000, blowing past last year. Thank you. A lot of kids are going to eat because of that. All right, Gary and Shannon up next. I'm back again tomorrow. This is KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
We go through all the that's going on so that we can tell you just the you need to know.
KFI.
And the KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Staying in LA, I'm Amy King, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Dodgers star pitcher Clayton Kershaw will be on the mound for the Boys in Blue next season. The team confirms that Kershaw has re-upped with LA in a $20 million one-year deal. News brought to you by veteran-owned SemperSolaris.com. A CHP officer in Orange County had to be freed by the jaws of life after he was rear-ended by a Chevy Tahoe and trapped inside his car on the 22 freeway. The officer had pulled over last night to help a car that was experiencing mechanical issues when the Tahoe rear-ended his patrol car and the other vehicle. Authorities say an arrest has been made. The extent of the officer's injuries is not known. Police in Maywood say an LA County Sheriff's deputy has been injured during a stolen vehicle investigation. Deputies were patrolling when they saw a parked car with people inside. Police say they ran up the license plate and figured out the car may have been stolen. One of the people in the car and a deputy struggled. Both were injured. The deputy had to be taken to the hospital. All three of the people in the car were taken into custody. Showers, highs in the mid-50s, low 60s for the rest of the week. Partly cloudy skies with highs in the low 60s. Warming up a couple of degrees for the weekend. KFI market report, the Dow down 420 points, the NASDAQ off 202, S&P 500 down 66. The average price for gas in California, $4.77 for a gallon of regular unleaded. Got a stall in Carson on the 110.
Going down for your drive on the northbound side before Torrance Boulevard, and it has the middle lanes blocked. That's why you're seeing an especially heavy drive right now, heading northbound on the 110, coming away from as far back as, before Sloboda Boulevard, almost Pacific Coast Highway, as you head northbound on the 110. Southbound side, also seeing delays free from the 405 if you
HR issues, I got nailed. I could never afford an HR person. But there's an answer, Bambi.com. And with Bambi, you get an HR person starting at just $99 per month. And I thought this was too good to be true. This is real.
Bambi helps you deal with your HR problems, like writing HR policy, sexual harassment training, hostile work environment, terminations, that was my problem, people complaining about other employees, all putting you and your business at risk. With Bambi, you get access to your own dedicated HR manager available by phone, email, real-time chat. Go to Bambi.com, type in KFI under the radio drop-down when you sign up. Bambi.com, that's KFI under the radio drop-down. I want the credit, please. Spelled BAM, B-E-E, that's BAM, B-E-E, that's Bambi.com.
At Easycater, food for working hours tank. Maybe that's why we get orders from 93% of Fortune 500 companies. So what's up with the other 7%?
Everyone, meet our newest employee, Susan. She
Does it year after year, you know, especially Michelle. It's just incredible how people KFI year after year, and it feels so great.
Legit. All right, what did you want?
Okay, so there's two stories that I don't understand.
Okay.
Number one, this story out of Tampa, the police chief there resigning. She was with her husband. They were in a golf cart. They get pulled over because they don't have a license plate on the golf cart. She badges the deputy, and now she's resigning over it. It was just because they didn't have a license plate on the golf cart. It's not like she was drunk driving or, you know, running into people or shooting at people. She was simply in a golf cart with her husband and showed the fact that she's the police chief. What's the big deal? Why would you resign over that?
It feels like there's more to it.
There's gotta be more to it.
And the scenario that I came up with in my head, not knowing her, or the scenario or the situation that she finds herself in, obviously it's you can't use your position of authority to get out of a ticket legally.
Yeah, but people do it all the time.
Say that, is there anybody who doesn't believe that if you're law enforcement, whatever, and you get pulled over for whatever reason, anything, bloody body parts sticking out of your trunk or something like that, and you flash a badge, or whatever the code words are that you know, hey, I'm on the job. Oh, really? Who do you work for? I work for Covina PD. Oh, let me see your badge. There you go. Hey, tell you what, keep the blood trail down and speed down below the speed limit.
You know where that would have come in handy? If somebody's wife got caught drinking a cider outside the Dodger playoff game.
I've heard a story like that.
Yeah, and he doesn't show the badge to get her out of it. Maybe he ends up paying $400 worth of a citation.
In your situation,
over a cider.
Maybe he's just betting that he's going to need to use that later for something more severe. Cider is
probably right. Yeah, there's something else there.
But here's the other thing. How do they find out that this happened? It had to be the deputy. Remember, the deputy pulls them over.
Yeah, well, there's clearly body cam footage. Because here she is, flashing her badge on the body cam. But again, it's a golf cart. They don't appear to be inebriated. I don't get it. The other story I don't get. Last week, the news broke that the ABC News co-anchors on
sense, but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that, but
Of course, talking about the 3-week now police investigation that has not turned up any suspects. She said her communication with the police, well, they haven't said anything. She says, I've learned more on the news and on TV than what they have said to me. The surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, were asleep on the first floor of that house when their roommates were slaughtered. At a memorial over the weekend, a youth pastor shared a letter written by Dylan, where she described her roommate as the life of the party, adding that she was strong, intelligent, hard-working, beautiful, that she looked up to one of the other victims like an older brother, described in glowing terms the love the two had for each other, so they were all very close.
So in terms of the targeting issue, police have said that they believe that this was a targeted attack, although specifically Moscow police have said they're not sure if it was the building, like the home itself, because it had a reputation for being a party house, or if somebody inside, if it was one of the 4 victims that was targeted. So Steve Goncalves was asked about that specifically.
You've said both now to Rachel and then in the clip in your appearance with Lawrence Jones that your daughter and Maddie had different means or manner of attack, and that one of them was can you share with us? Do you know and you can't share
Better on the 60. We'll tell you about that next. Well, if you are ever injured in an accident, maybe on the 60, we want you to call a firm that has a reputation for helping injured accident victims in a big way.
Yeah, we're talking about Sweet James Accident Attorneys. This year alone, Sweet James has won at least $100 million for their injured clients.
Some of the most recent Sweet James settlements include $315,000 for an injured victim who was hit from behind by another driver when they were stopped at a light.
Check this out, $500,000 recovered for a client who was injured from a dog bite. So many more like this. Every case is different and they cannot guarantee the outcome, but having an experienced law firm by your side is a must.
And the best part is, every time Sweet James settles a case, they donate meals to families in need. They've donated more than $65,000 since 2021 and counting.
If you've been injured, you gotta call Sweet James, voted best attorneys in America. 800-500-5200. That's 800-500-5200. Or go to sweetjames.com.
Partly cloudy with highs in the upper 50s to mid-60s, 20% chance of some showers tomorrow. This report brought to you by Blindster.com. Crash cleared in Hacienda Heights on the 60.
I don't know what's done by Hacienda Boulevard. Everything is off the right shoulder, but definitely seeing a slowdown for you on the westbound side of the 60 from before Fullerton Road, almost as far back as Nogales. Also going to be still going for you. Maybe didn't make a cow trends work happening for the drive north and southbound along the 605 between the 10 and the 60, looking a bit busy for you in both directions. As you make your way westbound along the 10 as an alternate to the 60 westbound, still seeing some delays for you there coming out of the Covina through Baldwin Park from before Sunset, almost as far back as Vincent. Beyond the 605 into El Monte as you make your way toward Peck Road. Because of your generosity, the 12th annual KFI Papathon was the biggest ever. Together, we are feeding kids in Southern California and ending the cycle of poverty. Thank you. I'm Nick Poliocchini. This report is sponsored by Cal Recycle. Californians are recycling smarter to fight climate pollution.
Trail to a secluded area, and that's where he sexually assaulted her. Now, today, again, police, there's so many questions because that's essentially all the information that we have. We were told that he's possibly white or Hispanic man, 30 years old with a scar on his right forearm. I guess that really concludes what we know. And of many questions were asked, including simple questions: how did the man get away? What was the status of the woman? How old is the woman? All of these questions remained unanswered. Police, in some cases refused to answer them, and then in other cases just simply said, that they don't know. So at this point in time, because one of the questions I had asked was, well, are there any cameras that you could divert to try to get to some, level of narrowing down who the suspect could possibly be? Police said that there really are no cameras in the area, so of course that makes things really hard. So they're relying on people who think they may have seen something out of place that day that were hiking in the area. And again, this is in Encino between, it's off Mulholland between Tampa and Reseda. That's where they're really honing in on this, and they're asking people if they saw something that was out of place to come forward. They're also asking people who may have car cameras or things of that nature that could have some sort of recording to turn that over. They might be able to use some of that. But otherwise, it does appear that police are pretty stumped at this point.
Seems like an odd update to tell us that they would call for an update like
Right.
this and not really give us any more information.
I mean, they just must be getting desperate at this point. I mean, that's broad daylight.
Well, exactly. And in fact, I almost asked, as questions were cut off, I was going to ask, was this an update or a warning? Because it started to feel more like a warning to the public and then a plea to the public, to your point, that maybe they're stumped. So, yeah, like I said, at this point in time, they just didn't have a whole lot to offer. I think the only new update may be that they are honing in on the area between Tampa and Reseda.
All right, Blake, thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, coming up next, this is something that I lived through. Last time I took a metro train. I think I was going to Dodger Stadium, and the man was masturbating on the platform there.
You make it sound like it wasn't.
It was not sexy.
Oh, it wasn't?
Yeah, and he was desperately trying to make eye contact.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. It was bad.
Oh,
Convicted attorney Michael Avenatti is being sentenced in a courtroom in Santa Ana today. Federal prosecutors are asking for Avenatti to get 17 and a half years in federal prison for his wire and tax fraud scheme in Southern California. Gas prices continue to drop in LA County, dipping to $4.85 on average for regular unleaded. That's down $1.64 since the record high in early October. Orange County prices also down to $4.72 a gallon. Got a crash in Diamond Bar on the 60. On that 60 eastbound right at Diamond Bar Boulevard, stall a car there, and it looks like we now have a crash. The carpool left lane are going to be blocked. It's going to be stop and go from Grand Avenue. In Chino, 60 eastbound for Central Avenue, right in the carpool lane. On the flip side, Hacienda Heights, 60 westbound, right after Hacienda Boulevard. That earlier wreck cleared from the lane. Just a slow go from Fullerton Road. Also in Baldwin Park on the 10 westbound of Puente Avenue, got a wreck blocking the left lane. You're hitting the brakes on Vincent Avenue. Because of your generosity, the 12th annual KFI Prostathon was the biggest ever. Today, we are feeding kids in Southern California and ending the cycle of poverty. Thank you. I'm Jimmy Harmon. This report is sponsored by personal injury firm Owen, Patterson & Owen.
Family time and quality time are so valuable. This is what life is about. In an emergency, you need a trusted law firm with decades of experience. Owen, Patterson & Owen. Getting you back to the ones you love. 888-OPO-WIN. OPOLaw.com.
This is Leland Smith here, founder of Service Champions Plumbing, Heating, and AC. If you're thinking about replacing your heating and cooling system, this is a serious question for you. Do you really even know what you need? There are so many companies out there offering different systems at all kinds of prices. How can you really know if what you're being sold is what
we're doing? If we're not going to punish people who behave badly, this is what we have to live with in LA County.
Just people feeding the ducks left and right.
Feeding those ducks. You get a breadcrumb, and you get a breadcrumb, and you get a breadcrumb. When it comes to love, I want slow. Within the next 20 years, they say they can't meet the national air quality standards without federal help. Air district officials have asked the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to cut down pollution in ports, rail yards, and airports. They say nitrogen oxides must be limited to 60 tons a day across the air basin to meet the 2015 federal ozone standards. News brought to you by veteran-owned SemperSolaris.com. 2 people have had to be airlifted out of the Angeles National Forest. The 2 fell from a cliff near Mount Baldy yesterday morning. LA County Fire Department medics were lowered from the Air Rescue 5 to reach the people stranded below. They were taken to a trauma center. The Griffith Park pony rides are going to close later this month after 74 years of operation. Owner Steve Weeks posted on Facebook. He blames the closure on animal rights activists and the city of LA, which decided not to extend his contract. The Department of Recreation and Parks has promised to put the vacated space to good use. Investigators in Idaho say 2 of the college students stabbed to death in their home off campus were killed in the same bed on the top floor of the house. One student's dad says his daughter's wounds were more severe than the others.
This community is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the street. It ain't going to happen.
The dad says the autopsy reports show their causes of death don't match. 4 University of Idaho students were killed in their sleep over 3 weeks ago. Detectives are still waiting to receive forensic test results. Those are expected to come this week. Lava from the more than week-old Mauna Loa eruption has continued its slow move toward a key highway on the Big Island. David Phillips of the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory says lava is a couple of miles away from the Daniel K. Inouye Highway, also known as Saddle Road. The lava is moving about 50 feet per hour.
There were a lot of applicants this week. It's not a huge surprise. Guns N' Roses is suing for trademark infringement. There's an online shop called Texas Guns and Roses. A Jersey Village florist owns that Texas Guns and Roses website, and they have sued for infringement of use of the Guns N' Roses name without the band's approval. So, is that church somewhere? No, it's not here. The church in the video. It's got to be somewhere else. The other thing is that we saw The Weeknd is out with some new music. That is apparently some of the new music teaser for Avatar: The Way of Water that The Weeknd is doing some of the music for. Not quite clear what this new single is going to play in the movie, but the tease looks to try to get people excited about this even as the film approaches. We talked with Jason Nathanson a little earlier this hour about sort of the fact that we've seen such a weak box office in these last several weeks. People are just not going back to the movie theaters the way that they used to.
I also feel like people are out and about doing holiday stuff and running around.
The last time I went on a holiday, and that would have been a Christmas Eve.
Back in the future.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like in the
It was the last